So we got all our fits right and made sure that the components will all fit on the barrel at a nice tolerance, so at a nice fit. Alright, so now I'm going to go over how we're going to assemble the barrel. We're going to build the barrel from the back and the chamber end towards the muzzle, so that each piece will fit with the other one. Basically, you know, you want this would be either your rear sight block or the hinge block on a Krink that we're assembling here. Same thing with if you have like AKM, any type. You want to get this to where it'll fit with the trunnion, so that looks nice. Your top cover will fit tight, and then also the gas tube. This will fit with this, and then that way you can get it tight with the either the gas port or the front sight block. The most important thing cosmetically is cant. A lot of builders look for that to see how good you are at assembling something. You don't want your front sight block to be sitting on here crooked. It's very easy. On a shorter barrel, it's actually easier to get everything sitting on there straight, because if it's a little bit off, it's a lot harder to see at 9 or 11 inches than it is to see at 24 inches. So there's a lot of guys that have jigs and stuff. You have to look at how your barrel's been machined so far. This one already has an extractor cut in it, and it already has the gas port drilled. So this barrel's already been clocked for you. We have to match the pieces now to the timing the barrel's been set at. This gas port we want sitting at noon, and we want this sitting at the right position so your extractor can come up and hit that barrel the right way and slide correctly. Because if this extractor, if it doesn't have enough space, it won't be able to sit in the barrel right and throw everything off. So basically, we just now have to match up the pieces with the timing that's already there. So first thing first, we're going to put the trunnion on, and what I like to do is, you'll find a lot of burrs in this, so I smooth that down with some real fine sandpaper. We don't want to take much material off there at all. We just want to knock off some of the high spots or parts that we think will grab the barrel as it goes in. Alright, now we're going to press in the barrel into the trunnion. If you see here, I've got it all real nice and shined up. I took some 120, and all those burrs that'll be in there I got out. Don't take a lot of metal off. And really what you want to watch too is this burr that'll occur when the barrel pin was drilled in the last barrel. If this catches as the barrel's coming in, it'll scratch up it and cause a dig, and it'll look bad. So I try to deburr that the best I can. Now you won't always get that perfect, but if you try to get all of it off there, there's a lot less chance it will. Also, another thing I like to use, NEC's paste. I mean, this is at every car shop. I'm sure most of you guys have probably used it. You just put a little bit, it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to turn the whole thing silver, but you just put a little bit on there as you're pressing something in, and it really helps. Now, to get these started, I'll actually tap it in there with a piece of wood, get everything clocked right. I do these by line of sight. You can make a jig or use a laser, but things seem to move, and I've done so many of these now. That's just the way I do them. I can get them more accurate by just lining down, sighting down it. Basically, to get it started, I'll just tap it in there with something really soft, and then after that, put it on aluminum or have brass up here. We don't want anything as hard as this steel to mar something up. So we're going to press it in there, and then we're going to get to head spacing when it actually gets somewhat close. Now this is exactly like everything else we've pressed. If it's not moving with every press, then something is bound up. It is very easy to bend the barrel at this point because you have so much distance. Once I get past the barrel pinhole, I like to take it out and make sure that nothing's getting burred up. Check for burrs. Looks like we're doing good. Alright, now you don't want to press it too far because you want to be able to still head space it. Okay, so the barrel's getting closer now. Just gonna keep pressing. Press and check. Press a little bit further. Now, since we have our barrel pressed into where head spacing is going to start becoming a factor, I'm going to take some time and explain what head spacing is, specifically about AK-47s, but also other rounds. Here's a trunnion that doesn't have a barrel in it yet, to give you a better idea of what we're trying to set here. If you notice, when your bolt goes in, it's going to rotate against your locking lugs. Here's a locking lug, and this top piece right here is a locking lug. This bottom piece down here is not a locking lug. The AK-47 has 2 locking lugs. What we are trying to measure is for the cut in the chamber where the round sits on the shoulder and these lugs. The thickness of the bolt will affect this. If these lugs are thinner, then this distance will be greater. If these lugs are thicker, the distance will be shorter. On most bolt actions, where the clocking of the barrel is set, you will shorten the bolt or lap it into place to where it's head spaced. Head spacing is defined on an AK-47, an AK-74, an AKM, any AK variant as the distance between the shoulder of the round and the back of the lugs, with the bullet sitting in the bolt. The head spacing is adjusted by how far in or how far out the barrel is pressed. We are head spacing a Bulgarian Krink. It shoots the AK-74 round. It's 5.45 by 39 millimeters. This is a regular AK-47, 7.62 by 39. And this is a 7.62 by 54R for rimmed. These are the common rounds that people build with, and to give you an idea how each one head spaces. Here I've laid out the gauges you need and what size round it is for your build. So for building, you need a no-go gauge and a go gauge. The go gauge is the tightest head space you want. Basically meaning that these shells are going to vary from size to size, and you want some slop just in case something is in there. These gauges will help you get that range. You want it tight enough to where this doesn't go, and you want it loose enough to where this does go. I really suggest buying the gauges. A lot of guys will measure the round and put a shim behind here to make a no-go gauge. I suggest buying the go gauge and the no-go gauge at least. A field gauge is for after a gun has been shot many a times. That is made to the loosest tolerance that that gun can stand before it is dangerous. So yes, sometimes built guns that have been shot a lot, the no-go gauge will go closed, but you can measure that again with the field gauge to make sure that it's still safe to shoot. But since we're doing a new build here, we want it to not shut on the no-go. Very simple. No-go, it shouldn't go. Go, it should go. Let's say there was a bullet on this bolt going shut. It would be the cuts in the chamber all the way to these lugs. That's on an AK-47. But there are other ways of head spacing. Here's a 7.62 by 54R. It's rimmed. So the head spacing on it is defined as this rim against the face of the barrel to the back of its lugs through the bolt. On your PSLs, any gun that shoots this, the head spacing will be set with the thickness of this rim. That's why these gauges are so short. Alright, the method I'm using is actually somewhat different from what other people use. I actually have pressed the barrel in too far on purpose to where, I'll show you here, the go gauge will not go. That means it's too tight. But I want this because I'm assembling this for somebody else, and I want the head spacing to be as tight as possible. And the tighter the head spacing is, to the go gauge, the more accurate the rifle actually will be. Not to a large extent. These are so the different. Not to a large extent. The difference between these are so small that chances are the barrel is going to move more than you can get these to be. But just so we're sitting on top of the head spacing, I like to go too far since this isn't a receiver and it's very easy to press back out. So I'm going to press it back out just a little bit until the go gauge goes. And then that way I know I'm sitting on top of my headspace. And then just to be safe, I'll put the no-go in there and show you how it doesn't go. Okay, now we got it on our press jig. Basically I have this routed out to where you got a hole that sits down in it and goes around the trunnion. A lot of people say this would be overkill because as soon as the no-go doesn't go, you're really in the range. But when I do something for somebody else, I really like to make it just right. So I'm trying to get at the tightest, safest headspace possible. Too tight of headspace can be dangerous somewhat as well, because it's possible that the lugs wouldn't get fully seated, and you want those lugs to be as strong as possible, and without them being fully seated you wouldn't get the most strength. But that'd be pretty hard with as much force as goes into loading around, but it's possible, so don't get it too tight. Tighter's not always better. So we're going to press it out just a little bit. Alright, moved a little bit on us, so we're just pressing just a little bit now at a time to get it just right. Alright, make sure all surfaces are clean. The bolt face is clean, the lugs are clean, the trunnion is clean, and the barrel is clean. First just put in your bolt. Look, it's able to move in there. Then put in your go gauge. And it's able to lock. It's not as free because obviously now it has pressure on it. Okay. Now the carrier changes this relationship. So next, put the carrier in there. See, it shuts. It's a little bit harder if not a receiver to guide it, but see how it goes shut all the way? Now let's put our no-go in there. We don't want it to go shut all the way. See how it won't go shut? Now if I got out a hammer, I've seen guys do it before, I could make that go shut, because it'll basically just dent this face right here, or crimp this down, or dent this face to where it'll fit, because we're dealing with very little tolerances here. But see how basically I have a 1/2 inch gap here now and it won't go shut? That means our head spacing's good.